get back to the marine environment. Shell had, all the oil companies had many, many crews doing exploration work. Shell had many crews and one water crew. I was in charge of the water crew. Water crew, we worked the swamps, the bays, lagoons, because the maximum depth of drilling possible was 15 feet of water. Because the only drilling rigs they had for marine was on barges. They moved the barge to a location, flood it, and then drill. So 15 feet of water was the maximum. So we were in all the bays. We were in Burton Swamps in Louisiana, Aransas Bay, Coconut Bay, Corpus Christi Bay, Laguna Madre. We worked. But in early 1937...
But let me interrupt you. When did you start to work with Shell?
I started work from Shell in January 1936. I got my degree in February 34, stayed on as an assistant to Professor Rickmeyer for the rest of 1934. Then I had the Charles A. Kaufman Foundation for 1935. So 1936, 1935, I was looking for a job. In those days, you took the first job offered. It didn't matter what.
Yeah.
You're lucky.
You were lucky to get a job.
Sounds like 2003.
So in January, I started with Shell of 36. And now, early in 37, I'm working on an area north of Corpus Christi Bay, a bay within a bay, Redfish Bay, and I start getting abnormal dips.
But again, please let me interrupt you again. I mean, you went there to Shell with physics PhD. You didn't know a bean about seismology, geophysics.
I didn't even know how to spell geophysics.
How did you get into the geophysics?
My first month, they gave me a book.
Oh, okay.
And they said, study. So I studied. I've forgotten the name. Some British author wrote a book. And Shell had its own book written for internal use only by Evian, an early pioneer in refraction seismology. After 1 month, they sent me to a crew as an assistant to the chief, to the head of the crew. And that's when I really learned what was going on. And then, 4 months later, by June or July of 36, they gave me a crew, which was a water crew, the first water crew they had. Water meant bays, lagoons, swamps, so on.
All coastal.
Yeah. The difference was that my instruments were in pieces. We could move them from a truck to a barge to a rowboat, whereas the land crews, the instrumentation was built into the cab. See?
I see.
So that made me a portable.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, early 37, I see this abnormal dip. The coastline of Texas in that part is essentially north-south. And everything's dipping into the Gulf. Everything's dipping to the east. Well, you get anything flat or a west dip, you got something. In those days, if you found anything abnormal, if you could outline it, they sent a drill crew out there immediately on land or in shallow water.
Because possibility of salt dome or...
No, not structural trap, but a structural trap.
Yeah, structural
And
trap.
in those days, they went after even the small traps. That's another story, what the oil companies are doing now. now they can't afford to go after these small traps. Anyway, I get this abnormal dip, so I start shooting lines across the bay. I come to the lagoon, I shoot along through the lagoon. I come to the offshore bar.
Yeah.
Shooting there is like hitting a pillow. 160-pound charges, 50, 60, 100 feet deep.
That's it.
Nothing.
No energy.
You're shooting
Not getting anything
in a
off.
pillow,
Yeah.
in a pillow. So I keep going, and in front of me is the Gulf of Mexico. That doesn't bother me. So
That's beyond the bar.
I just, on the, after the offshore bar, you have to go for Mexico. So we now have a different kind of problem. First of all, we got waves, which you didn't have before. I can't use rowboats, I can't use barges, so I hire shrimp boats. 28 shrimp boats.
Okay.
It's not the shrimping season.
Yeah, I see.
Oh, yeah, right.
So for $28 a day, I got a boat, a captain, and one helper.
My gosh.
We supplied the gasoline, the fuel, and we supplied the lunches. See? And then so I moved my equipment aboard the shrimp boat. We're in the hole. The only place on a shrimp boat is a big hole. It smells like hell.
It is.
My operator gets seasick as soon as he got on the boat. But the assistant operator, nothing bothered him. He ate his lunch and he was in the hole. And he,
With all that smell.
It didn't matter. So I'm able to go. How do we survey? We built two 15-foot towers, run a baseline on the shore, and pre-calculate where we want the instruments and the shot points to be, calculate all the angles. See?
From the two towers
From
on
the
the
two
shore.
towers,
Yeah.
and we have a signaling system. The surveyor on each tower with flags telling move this way, move that way, don't move, stop. They had a very nice signaling system worked out, so you control where to put the buoys. What kind of buoys do you have? We bought these long bamboo poles, tied them with a line to window weights, and made the line just short enough so so the pole was buoyant, but there was tension in the line. See, that was a very delicate operation. So they go, drop the buoys, and then you see all these poles waving in the waves.
How deep the water?
How deep was the water?
Up to 65 feet.
65.
Quite a bit.
I was at 4.5 miles out. I go that far, and then it's difficult to see the surveyors.
Yeah.
So we run cross lines. I'm still getting abnormal dip. Well, I now have to report into headquarters what I'm doing. In those days, the party chief, which I was kind of independent compared to now. In other words, I decided where to go, what to do, how to do it. And every month or so I went into Houston and gave him a report of what I've been doing.
Shell was in Houston headquarters.
The headquarters were in Houston, 200 and some odd miles away. You know, that's a long way.
Long way in 37.
I bring in my report, consternation. You dummy, what the hell are you doing out there? 65 feet of water. What's the use of that? I can't drill it. There was no offshore drilling beyond the barges that sank. See?
I see. In the swamp areas. And
In the shallow lakes or lagoons or swamps, you could move the barge in, sink it, and drill. They laughed me out
They laughed at you.
and told me, get going, go to Kingsville. So I had to go back on land.
But you actually went and made many shots and you recorded.
We ran a line of 2 lines, 4 miles parallel, and a cross line. We had 8 geophones, but in those days, I should have brought some sample records. The quality of those records is far superior to anything you've seen. They had, the jugs weighed about 3-4 pounds. They were high powered. You could get power out of them. Today's geophones, you can't get power out. You get a voltage output. The natural frequency, that was it, not very high. It was about 1.5 seconds.
Oh, okay.
So we didn't get high frequencies.
Yeah.
But you got weak stuff. We took these geophones, which are land geophones, mounted them on an 18-inch square steel, 1/4-inch steel plate, and then tripod mounting, and then let it sit, drop it to the bottom, sitting on the bottom, which already is better than the hydrophones using which are floating in the water, because you're in contact with the bottom.
How'd you keep them waterproof?
Well, they were waterproof. I was working in the bays. And,
Oh, you're working in bays already.
These were,
Okay.
they would all leak, then we'd bring them up and dry them out and put the spares on and let them down. Yeah, we always had to dry them out. The geophones are not the problem. The cables were the problem.
Oh, the cable.
The cables in those days, the outer, whatever it was, bakelite or plastic or something, would crack and leak. So every once in a while we had to put all of our cables, stretch them on horses, take friction tape, and wind on 2,000-3,000 feet of cable, wound friction tape. There's the whole crew there with their rolling tape to seal the cable. And you did that a few times, and the cables are hopeless. Then you had to get a new set. But no cable lasted too long in the waters, especially the salt waters. And most of those bays are salty near the Gulf.
Did you get any animals, any gorillas in the water eating them, or?
We were very careful. See, the state of Louisiana and the state of Texas required that there be aboard somebody from the Fish and Game Department.
Right.
Usually he was a brother-in-law or a cousin or a son-in-law of some higher up. But all he did was sit in a boat, smoke, read the newspaper, and he got paid for that.
Yeah.
But his job was to make sure we didn't destroy any animal life. See?
Oh, when you set the charges off.
Yeah. So what we did in water was, before we did send any charge, we fired some caps. You know, the primers for the dynamite, fired at different depths, and that was enough to scare all the fish away. So when we set off our real charges, rarely did we see a dead fish. I mean, it was rare. Occasionally, some crazy fish would come back. Let me tell you about our charges. We had only one size charge, 50 pounds.
Oh, yeah.
50 pounds.
Why? Because dynamite from Hercules came in 50-pound boxes. See? Now, how do you shoot dynamite in water? Well, our shooter had a very good idea. We bought him a very good axe. He would chop off the edge of the corner, put a cap in there, drop the dynamite, and fire it before it could get too wet.
Just take the corner off the box.
Yeah, so that there was plenty of dry dynamite, even not much got in. And you had to be very good at that
Yeah.
shaving business. You took too much, the water got in. Took too little, the cap couldn't get to the dynamite.
So you actually went and found that structure continue offshore, but
It continued offshore.
Did the dip ever change?
Nope.
It was
No,
still,
it had not got the
you
top.
hadn't gone far enough out.
Now, 15 or 20 years later, I think, I'm not sure what Mobile or Barnsdall Oil Company also worked on that structure, and then now we're out in the water, and it turns out the structure is there. Geophysics is fine, only it's in the graben. See? So it's if there was any oil at all, it already had leaked out. So it was a dry hole, but it was a geophysical success. And the structure was there.
you made a movie of that operation, right?
I made a movie of it, and I made it on 8mm film, because that was my personal camera, which I bought to take pictures of my young daughter. See? And later on, Shell took that 8mm and made a 16mm and added sound. That film was used in New Orleans at an SEG meeting when I got the honorary membership in the SEG. Honorary membership in the SEG is equivalent to fellow of other unions. They don't call it fellowship, it's honorary membership. But it didn't show much, it just showed waves.
Why scrap down?
I'm not a sailor, you know. I always got a little bit of squeamish. Even though I was on a water crew, I had in my crew a motorboat. That was, of course, I had to go visit the crew in the bays, water. In Corpus Christi Bay, President Roosevelt and his yacht were there. And we rode around it to look at
Oh, did you?
Yeah. But we couldn't get too close because they had picket boats around. But I had this motorboat, but I only used it when I absolutely had to. And people didn't understand why I didn't go fishing.
Yeah.
Because I got seasick. Well, I didn't get sick. I got in between seasickness and nothing is squeamishness. I didn't feel right.
When actually, after that, Shell went back to the water and said, hey, we made a mistake, we should start looking for oil.
Marine exploration didn't start till about 1949, 1950, 10 years later. That's when the production people came up with ways to drill. There's no use finding an oil field if you couldn't drill it. But they've been working for years on various kinds of drilling schemes. Barges for deep water, folding barges, anchored barges, so on. So when the barges became available, that's when the companies went to work. They knew there was plenty out there. I mean, there had to be good oil fields out there because there was the whole rim of the Gulf on land is full of oil fields. Why not out there? Because if you know the geology of the Gulf of Mexico, it's in stages, you know. Big slumps and then it fills in, big slumps and fills in. The slumping deepen the center, gets deeper, deeper, deeper. More and more stuff piles on it. The crust's very flexible.
In those days, in the late 30s and the 40s, how deep they could go? What's the deepest oil well in those days?
You could go, they were going several thousand feet. Not tens of thousands, several thousand. Yeah. But the drilling people and production people were developing better and better tools, better and better material, so that it wasn't overnight. It was a gradual,
Yeah.
the target's there, let's go after it.